Alright everyone, welcome to race 3 of CEST This week we are on the French circuit of Paul Ricard. Not a fan favorite as far as I know, of course known as the parking lot. It is a quite difficult track, as we see Samim already spinning off in turn 2. Probably the hardest corner on the track to get right. It tends to spin you off somewhat. Also, why is Sergio Perez in the lobby? What? This is interesting. Oh, it changed. Okay, it fixed itself. That was curious. We had Sergio Perez driving in the grid. In a Alfa Romeo. Hashtag leaked. Now let's look. Who is on a lap? I think that's Loft. No, he is on a out lap. So is Blinde Finkin. But I think Nobuild is on a fast lap. Yes, he is a Mercedes driver. I think second in the championship. Of course, didn't have the greatest race last week, from what I remember. Still got some points. Of course, Mercedes, I think, still leading the championship. Of course, we know Nobold is a very, very quick driver this season. He's been very, very quick. Being really up there in qualifying. I think he was pole sitter last week in Kota. So let's have a look what he can do this week. As he sets a banker of a 130.539, which instantly gets... actually, sorry, that was Loft that set a 30.539. So Nobuild beats that and set a 30.505. The next car over the line will be not Meepo, that will be Sergio Perez, aka Ron Cruiser, 31.0. Of course, bankers, like we've said before, not really representative. As it's mostly drivers just getting into the mood of driving, still getting used to the car. Of course, the car in this game, the force feedback tends to change the more people you have in the lobby. I think it is that the more people you have in the lobby, the lighter the force feedback gets. Don't ask me how it works, I don't know either. Just F1 things. But, that's what the bankers are for, to get used to the car, to see how it all works. As we had some funny anti-aliasing going on there. Oh god, that's horrendous. Time to change the settings. I think that might be DLSS actually. I was experimenting a bit with DLSS. Is that here? No, that's not here. Video mode. Here it is. Go TA only. And let's have a look. I can't go back. This is suboptimal. Why can't I press escape? I think the game is unfortunately brokey. What can I do to fix it? Oh, wait. It hasn't fixed... Game. What did I get out of this last time? Let me plug in the controller and try that way. Technical issues, as we have been used to, fortunately. Why does this always have to happen? I go into the settings trying to make the stream look all pretty. And then something breaks. It doesn't work. How can I fix this? Like, I'm pressing the button, you can probably hear me pressing it. I can't change anything. Maybe if I go window, maybe that will fix it. No. Oh my god. Why is it so broken? I think I'll have to call for a restart here, unfortunately. Oh my. Okay. Lesson learned. At F1. Total. We have to. Why does this have to happen? My god. Alright, we will be right back after a short technical break. Alright, after ages of bugging around and stuff, we are going back into the session. This has taken way too long, way longer than it should have, but couldn't really do much about it. Also, my dumbass should never touch the settings ever again. Is what I learned. Alright, then we are waiting for the drivers to choose their tire strategy and stuff, and we will start the qualifying. Hopefully without any issues this time. If there will be issues again, I will be very sad. I think that's the call that we are in qualifying, and yes it is. Alright, let's set up all the stuff that we need, which is this tire, this one, and this one full. I'm kind of sad you can't change the size of this menu, because it's kind of big. Guess I could turn it off sometimes, but I kind of wish you could just have only the tire they are on showing next to their name. That would be a lot cleaner, but we have to do with this, unfortunately. And I think the first car on track is Samim again, in the almost said Haas, in the Aston Martin. Now I think the ghosting is fixed at least. Or, well, anti-aliasing ghosting in that case. So we should be good now. Let's see, who do we think will win today? It has been pretty close up front so far. Of course, we are missing Danny, as he is on vacation for this week and the next week. So we will be missing him. But today we have Matt replacing him in the McLaren. Matt, of course, driving on a controller, I think, as we can see. Nonetheless, still very fast from what we have seen in SLR. So it's good to have a new person on the grid, always. Do we have any other new people that we haven't seen before? I do not think so. So let's just go on board with Samim and spectate him on his first lap of the new qualifying session as he's setting it up. Once again, bankers, so not really representative. Now I do know that about half the race should be in wet conditions. So that would definitely be interesting in terms of strategy. And we will see how the drivers will be able to cope with the rain. Now, Samim ending the first sector. Looks like hooking it up pretty nicely. Using a bit of track extending. I think the purple sector one flashed up really quickly, but of course that doesn't really matter as he's the first one to set a lap. And now onto the super long straight. Braking very late for the chicane, that's about 70 meters. And hooking up the apexes nicely using the curb on the exit as well. Now this is maybe not the most favorite track of all the drivers, but I really think it's not the worst one out there. Of course this is the last year we will see it, I believe. As I think it is getting replaced next year on the calendar. But I really do not think it's as bad of a track as people make it. It's not great, but there's definitely worse ones out there. Because at least on this track you can overtake a bit. Anyway, we have our gamer coming to the end of his banker lap. As we spectate him flying over the main straight. And this time it will be a 1:31.6. With Love actually jumping up already. 1.3 seconds quicker with a 1:30.3 in the AlphaTauri. And I think that is Matt coming over the line next, setting a 1:30.9 as a banker. Noble jumping P2 with a 1:30.5. That is Ron Cruiser going 4th with a 31.2, as well as Smelt. Let's see, anyone else coming close to the finish line? I think that's McKender. Oh, that's Icewind, sorry. Icewind driving on hards, so he is just practicing a bit of race pace. Linfinkino goes pole by less than 100th of a second. Who is next gonna come over the line? There is a Red Bull going in. I assume that is EMT. Yes, it is. So the second McLaren will go over the line. That's Yoda jumping to P11 with a 1:33.7. Didn't have the best of laps, I think. And Meepo jumping up to 5th with 1:30.8. Now, I think most of the people here made a few mistakes in their laps. As you do with a banker. Not the end of the world, as there is still 13 minutes left, or just shy of 13 minutes. There's still plenty of time to go in and improve. And we also had 4 people that didn't go out of the pits, or 3 people I should say, sorry. With Copy, of course, EMT did do a lap. And our gamer, I think this is his first time going out, I'm not sure. He might have invalidated, I didn't see it. But he is now on his out lap. Of course, now we have the updated cars for a while. I have to say, I think the Aston Martin with the black halo is one of my favorite cars in terms of how they look. The Red Bull is definitely up there with the black halo and the correct paint job color. But I feel like now there isn't really a bad looking car anymore in terms of TV pod. I think they all genuinely look really good. I think I've been sent a friend request on Steam because I got a pop-up on my phone. That's someone from SLR. Do I need to send him an invite? I can do. Alright. So now we will go on board with our gamer, about to start his lap. DRS open, of course, for the big straight. And flying down to turn 1, using all of the track. Cam braking at the start of the curb, hitting up the apex really nicely. Now this curb, it's an interesting one. You can take it, but you can also stay off it. Because if you do decide to take it, there is a big chance of it just flinging you off. As a bit of oversteer from our game, a bit too greedy on the throttle. Now keeping it quite steady here, a little bit of wheel spin, kicking the rear end out, but not the worst. Onto the long straight, of course, in GT3, this chicane does not exist, it's one big straight. And of course F1 cars, they go much quicker than GT3 cars, so that's why F1 has a chicane here. But in GT3 this straight is incredibly long. You can get to the start of the straight, get out of your rig, go for a cup of tea, come back and you still wouldn't be at the end. Whereas with the F1 cars, of course, it takes way less time. Because with DRS, ERS battery on the straight, of course having a lot more boost. So that's why there's a chicane, it's all purely for safety. And I feel like it adds on to the track a little bit. As our gamer decides to go in for a invalid lap. Let's see, who will be starting lap? I was talking about Red Bull before, so let's spectate EMT. There it is. The Red Bull actually a really good looking car when it has the correct paint job. And not the ugly, very bright blue. I don't know what that was at the start of the season, but... The only thing I really don't like about this car is how many sponsors it has. I mean, I know this is Formula 1, it's like sponsors give you money, but the Red Bull really has a lot of sponsors on the car. Like, let's see how many I can count. I will count them double, so how many like sponsors there is in terms of stickers from what we can see. So there is 17, 18, 19 stickers of sponsors that you can see from this camera angle, which is really a lot. But money is necessary in F1. In the end, this is a sport for money, where money plays the biggest part, so it is understandable. As EMT unfortunately did invalidate his lap. So our gamer on his out lap again, so we will not watch him for now. As someone has spun, I think that was Love having a off inter one. Probably what I was talking about, where he took just a tiny bit too much curb as he goes straight on to save a little bit of time. Is someone on hot lap? I think No Build is on hot lap. So let's have a look with him. He is currently in sector 3. There is a yellow flag of a car being spun around. I'm driving off the track in this case pretty slowly. That was a Haas. Oh, I changed camera. So that was probably Fox. I think just letting people by, trying to not be in the way. And now Noble, let's see how much he can improve on his second lap. He set a 30.2, which is currently pole by a little bit over a tenth. So I think we will definitely see 29s in this session. Maybe one or two people dipping in there. I'm definitely expecting a big improvement from Meepo, currently in P5. As I think his banker wasn't really representative. So let's have a look in Sector 2. We have a yellow flag in Sector 3. I think that's just a car going slowly, trying to not get an incident for blocking. And we go into the chicane. You can really take a lot of that curb, which not all drivers know, so not all drivers use it. That's where you can get a lot of time into that chicane. Now into this corner, which is completely flat. Even in race conditions under dirty air, this is a flat corner. Now this corner is very interesting, because you can take quite a bit of different lines into it. But I don't think all of them are equally as quick. I think we will see many drivers going in with a different approach. Some drivers using the brake for some drivers using the shifting for engine braking. Other drivers maybe using a bit more of the foot pedal and deciding to shift a bit later. But in general, I think we will see maybe the similar racing line, but the approach in the corner a bit differently. As Meepo goes 3 tenths quicker, I think a 30.5 at the moment. Let's see Makander on a lap, currently 4 tenths up, so he's on the way for a 0.3. Going into sector 3 now, of course, in the very, very long right-hander. Barely staying within the track, so he's really pushing the track limits. Hitting the apex here nicely. Going out onto the curb. Now this is also an interesting corner, especially in the race, because of how the pit entry works. Of course, the pit entry here is the new one, whereas the older times, the pit entry would go right into here. Basically into the pit wall. I don't know what is safer. Also, Makander is setting a 29.9, so he's the first person to be into the 29s. Very nice lap by him. So this gives everyone kind of a run for their money, as they have to improve by a decent margin to get close to Makander. Let's see, who else is on a lap? I think Icewind is the other Williams that's just starting his lap. Actually, I think he is not yet starting, but Yoda has retired. I think that is in the pit lane. He does not think he can improve, although there's still a bit of time left. He could have probably still gone out for a run. So interesting decision from him to choose to retire. But Icewind now starting his hot lap. turn 1. Let's see how well he can hook up that apex. That was indeed very nice. And taking the curb, a little bit of a snap. That might have lost him a tiny bit of time. But it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Now braking at 60. Also hooking up the apex nicely here. This track is all about maximizing track limits. That's all that it's about. As he maximizes them a little bit too much and unfortunately invalidates his time. Now, I don't think we have many people on a hot lap at the moment. So, who is that all the way at the back? I think that's Copy. Yes, but he is going in. Copy currently P4 with 140.3. I think the next car that is on, that's going to be starting a fast lap is the AlphaTauri of Love. Of course, currently in P5. Just 4/10, I say just 4/10, 4/10 of pole at the moment. Let's see how much he will be able to improve. Now I have to say, I think AlphaTauri has possibly the lowest nose in the game on the car. Not sure how accurate that is actually. Of course the teams are going for different approaches. Some teams focusing more on the airflow under the car, some teams focusing more on the flow above the car, and it seems like AlphaTauri is focusing more on the flow above the car to generate their downforce. As Love will be starting his hot lap with a very nice helmet with a bunch of cards on top of it. Not sure if that was a special helmet or if it's one of the ones you get from the game by default. Now it doesn't get blocked at a pit exit, very awkward pit exit, as it enters basically right into the braking zone for turn 1. So very, very scary in qualifying. Love hooking up the apex really nicely here, really on the edge of track limits. Now will he do the same as McKender and go a tiny bit over too much? No, he doesn't. He is up by 26 thousandths of a second. Not a lot, but it can be all the difference as his sector 1 was purple. So that was a really good sector 1 by Love. Let's see what he can do in the middle sector. As the middle sector is basically 2 corners. The last corner in the squiggly bit and then the chicane. So here he comes to the sector split time. How much can he improve in sector 2? He lost a tiny bit of time. He lost 14 thousandths of a second, but he's still 12 thousandths up. So it's all in the third sector for him, where he can gain the most time. Now here you can see a little bit of a different time, choosing to use the inside curve for rotation on entry. And here are going for a quite early apex, I should say. Maybe gains him a bit of speed on the exit. Let's see. Now into the final corner, hooking up the apex nicely, running a bit wide. Now I don't know how the traction is on that curb. But let's see what Love can do as he sets a 30.1 jumping up to P2. He improved by 2/10, just more than 2/10. So a good improvement from him. Bumping him up to P2, and I think that is Meepo now starting his hot lap again. But we have watched Meepo. Let's see, who is someone that we haven't watched yet? I think it's Smelt. Let's have a look. So Smelt on his lap now, his final lap. Not quite using all of the track. Maybe he doesn't want to risk it that much, as he is currently in P8. So if he can improve, he could drop out of the top 10, which would be suboptimal for him, as he is currently the leading Ferrari. Now into the chicane, Fox retiring. I think that was actually a off from him. You can't really see it. Nope, I think that was just a retirement as he couldn't improve his lap. Now that was Linda Finkley retiring. Well, couldn't quite see it. I think he's all the way out there. Yeah, I think that's also just retirement by not being able to improve. Also, I have to say, Smelt and is it Run Cruiser? Yeah, Smelt and Run Cruiser, they are really close together on track. So maybe Smelt got a little bit of a, or sorry, not Smelt, maybe Run Cruiser got a little bit of a boost on the straight from the slipstream. But he definitely lost some time through Sector 3 from the dirty air. And I think Basco is right up behind them as well. So let's see. Smell jumping up to P6, Ruben jumping up to P7, and Basco staying P12. So the one Ferrari and Alfa Romeo actually gained quite a bit of positions. Meepo unfortunately didn't get to complete his last lap, or maybe he invalidated it, so he is staying in P8. Let's see what Copy can do. Copy jumps up to P4, goes up by one position. Now EMT in the Red Bull, I think, will be the last car to complete his lap. Actually, no, it was Icewind. And Icewind goes up to P8, so he drops down Meepo to P9. And let's see what EMT can do in the Red Bull. And he's the last one to go over the line, and he jumps. He doesn't jump, he stays in P11. So Makander is our pole sitter with 129.9. Love being in P2 with a 140.1, and Nobuild in P3 with a 130.2. Copy in P4, and Blindevinke in P5, rounding out our top 5. Let's quickly have a look at the incidents, just to be sure there wasn't any funny grid penalties, and I don't think there was. So this will be our starting grid for tonight. Now we should have already been in the race, but of course due to the technical issues that we've had, we had to do a restart, so we are running a little bit late. I think there is like a 20-minute delay on what we normally should have been running, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. Now the drivers choosing their strategies. I need to remember there is no formation lap, so we need to commentate from the start. Don't mess it up this time. Last race, I allegedly forgot there is no formation lap, and I thought the first racing lap was the formation lap, so that was really awkward. Anyway, 30 seconds till we start. So let's all prepare and hope there is no carnage into the first turns. Like there was last year. Last year we had a bit of carnage, of course, with, I think that was... Wasn't Max going off? I think it was Max going off. Was it Lewis going off? I honestly don't remember any. I think it was Max going off. Anyway, we have the starting grid. The predicted strategy is hard to medium. And Makander is on P1, and it's lights out, and away we go. Looks like Makander had a good start on the hard tire. Nobuild on the mediums. Did get jumped by Copy though, also on the mediums. Now into turn 1 we go. I think there is a little bit of action at the back. Someone is spun around. That's Copy being spun around already. Really not the start he would have wanted. I think there was someone else being off track as well. That might have been Christian, the reserve. Also a new face on the grid. Joined a little bit later, but that is all okay. Makander still in the lead with Love in P2 and Nobuild still in the in P3. So the top 3 is still the same as in qualifying. Let's pull out the tires, as only Nobuild inside the top 13 is on the medium tire, going up to P2 now with a move into the chicane on the straight. Besides him, only Fox and Copy are on the medium tire. So this will be interesting. Will the mediums end up being quicker, and will they last until it will start to rain? I think the hards here might have been the safer option, but we can only wait and see. Of course the rain will come in somewhere in the middle of the race, so from the 27 laps, about 13 or 14 should be dry. So I think the medium might be the better choice in this particular situation. There is something going on at the back. I think that was EMT. Having a little bit of wheel spin, still on the hard tires. Now next to him we have number 8 Haas of Fox moving around the outside. Beautiful move into turn 1, getting it done by turn 2. Really well done by him. Now Christian is looking to have a tiny bit of a move, or a tiny bit of a look I should say, into, I think that was turn 6 we were looking at, and there's a sector 2 yellow flag. That was our gamer being spun around, entering the fast section of sector 2. Not what you want to see happening that early on in the race. But you never know, he might go for early strategy when it starts to rain, and he might gain all the time right back. Let's have a look who else is really close together. Meepo dropped down to P10 at the start, behind Matt in the McLaren. Them two being really close together. Meepo looking to have a move around the outside, not quite switching back to the inside. They are side by side. Will Meepo manage to make it around the outside again? He's still hanging on in there. They are still side by side, but Matt will have the inside for the next corner again. They touch a little bit and Meepo spins. Very unfortunate to see. I was hoping this would finish well, but unfortunately Meepo has suffered from a touch. I think what Matt might have done is he might have understeered into him when he was pushing a little bit too hard. Car just didn't want to comply and hit Meepo on the wrong place in the car and unfortunately spun him. Now Icewind already with the 3-second time penalty. Very early to get a time penalty. But I think we will see more of them on this track. Because like I said, you really have to use all the track limits. Still, not the optimal strategy to get a penalty that early. But I think he might just be able to pull a gap, as he already has a 1.7 gap, second gap to Samin, and he is very close to Run Cruiser right in front of him. But then again, they also have a 1.7 second gap to Blinde Vinkje, who's in P4, and another driver getting a penalty. That was Matt, who got a penalty as well on the third lap. We have 2 drivers already with penalties, very early. I think the earliest so far we have had this season, the third lap for the first penalty. That is a track limit penalty. That is going over the track limits 3 times in 3 laps. Now will Icewind try and go for the move here? No, will setting the fast lap. A little bit expected as he is on the quicker tire. Now Icewind looking for a move down the inside, doesn't quite go for it. Just tries to get Run Cruiser to make a bit of a mistake. They both have a snap on the exit of turn 2. Now going into turn 4, this is, excuse me, not turn 6, this will be 2 and 4, this will be 5, and this will be 6. Now DRS of course enabled. He might try and get him on the big straight. The overtake button is enabled. So this should be a very easy move, as he is in the DRS using a bit of the battery, and he is passed before the corner. Now Run Cruiser will have a better run through here, but I don't think it's quite enough. Icewind a bit greedy on power, bit of a wheel spin, but the move is done, which is the most important part. Now let's go a bit back. Let's go to the Ferraris, as they are currently in P9 and P10. Matt actually in P10, behind Basco in the Ferrari, fighting for the points. As Matt, of course, with the 3-second penalty would drop down quite far out of the points. I think he will drop down to 15. If we have another yellow flag, I think that is Christian, the new reserve that has joined today. He has had a off after the very long right-hand corner. I'm not quite sure what happened, but it is suboptimal. Yes, those are track limit penalties on lap 4. Actually, we already had them on lap 3. So a lot of people with early penalties in this race. And I think the clouds are starting to roll in just a tiny bit already. So this will be interesting. I really wonder when the rain will really start kicking in. If it really is halfway, we still have quite a few laps to go. But if it's earlier, that could mean that this could be very profitable for people like Nobuild, who already built up a tiny bit of a gap in P1. Together with Mukender. So they have dropped the other Mercedes of Blindevinkje by 2 seconds already. And Icewind, almost 3 seconds behind Loth. That is quite a big margin for being on just lap 5. Now we might see Icewind gaining a bit of the time back, as we know he definitely has the pace. But if that keeps happening, that could be suboptimal, as his tires will fall off pretty quickly. Now, Ron Cruiser, the other Alfa Romeo, looking down the inside of Icewind, doesn't quite make it. There was an overtake for P11. I think that was EMT getting past Fox. Now Fox keeping it around the outside against Copy. Copy, of course, on the medium. Getting the switch back and getting the move done even before the DRS. So very good move by Copy there. Flying back up the field after having that spin in lap 1, of course. And that is our gamer having looked down the inside and now around the outside of turn 2. Also gets the move done. So Fox losing 3 positions in effectively 3 corners, or 4 corners, I should say. Could be a sign that the mediums already are dropping off. I'm not quite sure how the tire wear is around this track. But I don't think mediums should be dropping off that much, especially on lap 5. Now let's go on board with Smelt, who is about to make a move with Samim, but they have a little bit of a collision. Smelt going down the inside, Samim keeping it side by side. But it looks like Smelt did get the move done. Not quite without any contact, as I did touch on the straight, but it was nonetheless a move that ended up without any severe consequences. Now, is that Noble? That is Noble, who has unfortunately spun on the exit of the long right-hander. Our ex-leader now, dropping down to P4, almost 4 seconds behind the car in P3. Now, I think this is the same thing that happened to him in USA. Of course, in USA he did spin on the pit exit on fresh tires. But this time he spun, I think, maybe just pushed a little bit too hard. And that's rain already, so it's lap 7. And the rain is starting to kick in. Now this will be very interesting. Maybe that's why he spun. Maybe the track already got a tiny bit greasy. And he went on the power just too quick. But the rain, this will change a lot in terms of strategy. There's another yellow flag. Is that Copy again? It is Copy again. Alpha, sorry. The Alpine. Unfortunately having another spin. Now Yoda getting a 3-second time penalty. He is in P17. Quite far behind the pack. DRS disabled. Alright. That is very quick. This means we will already have people boxing in this lap, as track conditions are not safe for the dry tire anymore. So this is where it will be very interesting in the pits. Will there be any people that decide to stay out? I personally don't think so, but you never know. Here we have McKenna going that the track is really wet already, so the rain is actually pretty hard. Surprisingly, that's Yoda being spun in the chicane. Probably went a bit too quick on the power. You can really see how wet the track is at the moment. So I mean 5-second penalty for extending track limits. That's interesting. That if it's really for extending track limits in the pit entry, I think that will get removed. It's a weird penalty to get. I hope he doesn't serve it. He does. That's really unfortunate for him. As he will also block his teammate from doing his pit stop. So, of course, we do have a lot of double stacking. Our gamer actually already going on to the I want to say full wet, to the full wet tire. Interesting call by him. I think it might be a tiny bit too early, but it could mean that it will start raining harder very soon. Let's have a look. Makander still in P1. He has built himself quite a nice little gap. 1.4 seconds to Blindefink in P2. So Blindefink actually managed to get in front of Love after a pit stop. Now Samim getting a 3-second time penalty for track limit extension or cutting. So we have quite a few people with penalties already. It's Icewind, Matt, Samim, Christian and Yoda all with penalties, as we see Love going off a little bit. Love going off, unintentional pun. Going off again. But you can really see it is wet and drivers are struggling for grip. Now of course they are still developing a racing line. And that's why they will just have to keep driving. Now, I do want to see our gamer on those wets. How quick will he be? Copy is just flying past him, so I think those hards weren't quite the correct decision yet. But we can see how it will be in a few laps. It could be that in 2 laps, those hards will be quicker and everyone will have to go in for the extreme tire. That is a possibility, but you never know. Now let's have a look. I don't think there's really a very close fight at the moment. As I say that, as Matt has a bit of a moment on the exit of turn 2 and losing 2 positions. Basco and Samim both getting past him. So Matt dropping down to P10. Oh, he does have a better line through here as Samim sends it down the inside of Basco. As we were looking behind. Very nice move by him. Although interesting to do it before the long straight. I would have personally waited a bit, but maybe he does not have the wings. And here we have, is that a free wide? I think that's a free wide. And some still leading it. EMT and Meepo now forming a bit of a train behind Matt. Let's see who will end up on top here. I think Meepo might have a look down the inside here, or maybe even on the outside. Having a tiny look, adding a bit of throttle, keeping it nice and clean. Very well done. Now let's hope we won't get a repeat of history of what happened before between him and Matt. But it doesn't look like it, as EMT is still ahead. Now they are still both close together on track. But Meepo will have to wait just a tiny bit longer. Now, I think Meepo might have put on a tiny bit extra wing for the rain, because EMT is really flying away on the straight basically. But it might as well be that EMT is using a bit more battery than Meepo is. And Meepo now just having a look down the inside. Still side by side with EMT in the Red Bull, but I think Meepo gets the move done. Yes, he does. Very nice move into the slow section, the slowest section of the track actually. Very, very nice move by him, as Copy gets a 3-second time penalty. Now, I think the track limits in the wet are still as strict as they are in the dry on this track. As with most track, you can sometimes run a bit out wide and the game won't penalize you when it's in the wet. But it looks like on this track it's still very, very strict, even in these conditions. Now it looks like our gamer on those mediums, on those wets, isn't really gaining any time. But Blindevinky is gaining time on Mekender in P1 as he has caught up, I think about a second to Mekender. So maybe Blindevinky has a bit better pace than Mekender in the wet. Maybe he did some practice for this exact scenario. Maybe he has a great setup for this scenario. You never know. But it looks like he is getting just a tiny bit closer every single corner. Not a lot, but just a tiny bit. As Copy retired in the pits and left the session. Not his race, unfortunately, I think, once again. I think this whole season so far hasn't been very lucky for him. Very unfortunate for Copy in the Alpine. Who is about to get passed by Yoda just now. And I hope his car doesn't stop somewhere in the middle of the track. But I don't think there's many really exciting battles going on. I think actually Meepo having a look around the outside of Matt. And he gets moved on actually before the chicane. Will Matt have a look down the inside? No, he won't. He will stay behind him. Keeping it clean so far. Sector 1 yellow flag. That's Copy going. Copy's AI still going out of the pits. I think that's really the closest two cars we have on track. The gaps are quite significant. Most drivers having a second gap or close to it. The closest two cars we have together is Matt and Meepo. And Blindevinky and Mekender. Those two fights are the closest ones we have at the moment. Although it does look like Meepo is building up a little bit of a gap on Matt, who is currently outside of the points. And the two drivers behind him being inside the 3-second window. So that means they would jump him at the end of the race if they stay with this gap. Let's have a look at Icewind, as he is currently in P6, trying to chase down Run Cruiser in P5. Of course, Icewind does have a penalty. Will get added up to his time at the end of the race. Maybe he will be able to gap the car behind once he gets past Ruben. We never know. We can only wait, as we're not yet halfway through the race. Next lap will be roughly halfway, of course, 27, not a equal number, so we can't really divide it for half, so it would have to be the middle of lap 13, being the literal middle of the race. I think the middle will be roughly the chicane, so let's just say next lap will be halfway through the race. I'm really disappointed that there isn't much happening on track, although Meepo is on a charge. That's the only thing that is really happening. Meepo gaining a lot of time and Basco in front of him. Oh, little bit of oversteer by going on the curb. Just touching the curb. That curb isn't really getting driven on, so it doesn't have the most amount of grip, especially in the rain. So that lost him a tiny bit of time, but he is still rapidly approaching Basco's position. But Basco went a bit deep into turn 1 and had a little bit of a snap on the extra turn. So that gained Meepo 2 tenths. So he is getting closer and closer every single corner. I think he will try and go for the move on the straight into the chicane as EMT gets a 3-second time penalty. So that's a buffer zone for Matt. To not have to worry about him. Now going onto the straight, will Meepo get the move done? The number 68 Alfa Romeo. I'll use your spot, and there is a sector 2 yellow flag. That's EMT going into the wall. Will this be a possible safety car? Meepo getting the move done. Sector 1, 2, 3 yellow flag. I think that means it's a virtual safety car, as we do not see the safety car on tracks. That is the first VSC of the race. And Luckily for Meepo, it's just as he got his move done. Also now getting a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. That is interesting. As Iceman actually is going into the pits, so he must have... I think that must be a bug. It must be a bug that these drivers are getting 5-second time penalties for entering the pits and it's saying extending track limits. Now... well, we don't even see what tire he's going for, as we can just see the rim, but I can only assume they are extremes. Yes, they are. So Icewind making the early tire for extremes, going on the opposite strategy that everyone else is. So he is expecting the rain to get much harder and it continue to full wet conditions. Now I wonder what his teammate will do, as he is currently leading the race, as we are already green, by the way, which I forgot to mention. But let's see what McKenna will do. If these conditions are really going to change to full wet conditions, which we wouldn't see in real life, that would probably be a red flag. As we know, the race control has been this year very careful with wet conditions, unfortunately. Like, we would love to see some full wet racing in real life, but unfortunately we don't get it. We have to wait until the FIA deems the track safe, and by that time the full wets are basically useless, unfortunately. Now Matt getting another 3-second time penalty, so that will add up to being 6 seconds, unfortunately. So that tiny buffer he had on the car behind him, who also got a penalty, unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But now it does look like most cars are deciding to stay out. So not more people going in for the extreme tire. And I don't think McKender is really gaining time from it. It looks like he's actually losing time compared to Christian, who is on the intermediates. So maybe it was just a tiny bit too early to go for that tire. Now, speaking about Christian, he is actually very close to his teammate of Fox. They are within half a second of each other on the straight. It was a bit closer in sector 3. But that must have been the difference of the exit onto the main straight. Maybe Christian got a little bit of oversteer. Now Blindevinkie is actually really close to McKender into the chicane. Basically touching his gearbox with his front wing. As these two are, they are really gapping the other cars really hard. The gap is 4.8 seconds, it's almost 5 seconds. Christian now getting a 3-second time penalty. I think that's also a second, so that might be 6 seconds. Let's have a look at penalties. Yes, it is. So that's also a second penalty. So we have Matt and Christian both on 6 seconds, and then we have Samim, Icewind and Yoda who are on 3 seconds. Now we are already past the halfway mark of the race. So I think these conditions might stay the same, as the clouds, they don't look like it's getting any darker. Now Fox getting a 3-second time penalty, so the other Haas getting a penalty now. So both Haases on, not on, both Haases have penalties. Now let's see if Blindevinkie will be able to make the move this time, going onto the very, very, very long straight. Or maybe he will just stay behind McKender. Maybe his plan is just to stay behind McKender for as long as he can. Try and copy his strategy as best as he can. As he doesn't use any ERS, so I think that's what he is doing. But his teammate, No World, fighting for P3, is using ERS. I think what Blindevinkie is really trying to do is just stay behind McKender, copy his strategy, and then if possible try and overtake in a couple last laps. maybe try and save tires behind the weekender as well. To have that tire grip advantage to get the move done. We can't know for sure. Let's have a look. Noble gain a bit of time on Love. Of course, Sector 3, as we have seen, not the easiest to get a move done. So I think most drivers are just waiting for the long straights on this track. Now I do have to say, it is really unfortunate that we have these big gaps within the field, which means like, I personally, as a commentator, I can't really say much because there isn't much going on. We only have a select few battles that we can realistically watch. We could watch Meepo, but he is basically by himself. He has a 3-second gap behind and a 5-second gap in front. He is still trying to make the charge as high up into the points as he can, but it's realistically, this could be classified as a boring race because this track is not really optimal for overtaking in these conditions. The cars mostly just sit behind each other, and the slipstream is not quite big enough to make a solid overtake. As you can see, Noble was boosting here, he had a slipstream, but it simply isn't really enough. And of course the dirty air in the wet is quite bad. So it's kind of hard to just get moves done. And with these gaps, it's unfortunately not as interesting as we would have hoped for. Now Christian has been gaining a bit of time on Matt, so maybe he will try and go for the move very soon. Although the gap is changing really a lot from corner to corner, so it's hard to say. Actually, I don't know where, but Nobuild has got the move on Love, which we unfortunately missed. So Mercedes, currently being in P2 and 3, will they be able to replicate what Mercedes have done in real life in getting a 1-2 for the first time in a really long time? Of course, in real life, first time since basically last season. Actually, was there a Mercedes 1-2 last season? I think there was. As my voice is starting to have a little bit of a funny, as I'm not used to talking super much to myself to a monitor, commentating races. As our gamer has decided to go off the wets together with Icewind, which we also missed. We didn't see the pit stops, but they definitely decided that the full wet just isn't it at the moment. Is there any other battles happening at the moment? Not really. It's really quiet. The only two cars we can watch is actually both the Mercedes, one attacking, the other defending. I actually wonder if these intermediate tires will make it to the end. Now Samim getting another 3-second time penalty. I think that's also his second 3-second time penalty. Meepo also getting a penalty. So this is Meepo's first penalty, but if he is really trying to charge up the field, this could potentially make it harder for him. Sector 2 yellow flag, I think that's Icewind, who has had a spin going up the big straight. Yes, it was. He has lost basically his entire front wing, and that is a full safety car. So we have also our first safety car of the race, as the Mercedes AMG car, and our gamer drive-through speeding under safety car conditions. So our gamer really not having the greatest of races. A lot of people going into the pits. I only can assume for a fresh set of intermediates. So my question of will these intermediates last to the end won't really be valid anymore, as people can just make a free pit stop now. Now it is a shame we can't go on board with the safety car. That would be cool. I would love to get the camera angles that we get in real life, that you can see. That you can watch behind the safety car. That would be really, really cool. Now, I do have to say, I wish the safety car was a tiny bit louder. As we can only hear a slight humming. Of course, in real life, the safety car being very loud. As it's a Mercedes AMG Black Series. The exhaust tone out of that car is absolutely beautiful. So I wish Codemasters would have made it just a tiny bit louder. I do wonder, will the top 5 decide to go in for fresh inters? Could this potentially be a no stop for them on the inter tire? Actually, is it still raining? It is still raining, so McAnder is going in. And McAnder disqualified for ignoring yellow flags. Yeah. There's a lot of people boxing for the wets. I think it's raining really hard now. I am speechless about what happened to McAnder. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, no, he disappeared. Okay, good. I thought for a second he was blocking the whole pit lane. Now, I think that happened because the game thinks he passed the safety car. If this is the case, I'm afraid we might have to look at if we want to count this race. Of course, there have been a lot of unfair penalties as well. This is not what you want to see. That's all I have to say. Track is really wet now. Wow. Really raining a lot. I'm actually speechless about McAnder's disqualification. It's really sad to see this kind of stuff happening in the races. Now, I will get to this in SLR. I think it's only fair letting them know that this stuff happens on this track. It's up to them to decide if they want to race or not. But I will definitely put it up there if we want to. What are we gonna do about this? Because it's... These type of things shouldn't happen, as Iceman gets a 5-second penalty for not respecting yellow flags. I don't know what he did. That might be subject for removal. Surprisingly, Christian is still out on the intermediate tire. Maybe he doesn't think it's wet for fools, for wets out yet. Although everyone on the grid besides him and Yoda are on wets, and I don't think Yoda got to make a pit stop yet. Iceland 5-second penalty for cutting track limits. So he now has 10 seconds of penalties. Don't know how many of them were fair and how many weren't. This is interesting to say the least. I don't know what to say. Everyone now on the intermediate tire, or sorry, everyone on the extreme tire besides Christian, safety car in this lap. We can only see what will happen now. Icewind retiring. I think he just retired it. I think he just doesn't want to finish this. Yeah, this is really interesting. Now, I wonder how quick or how slow Christian will be on those intermediates compared to the wet tire of all the tire behind him. If it really is so wet, those intermediates won't get up to temperature whatsoever. But if it's too dry for the full wets, those wets will start overheating. So we can only wait and see, but I can only assume that the full wet is quicker, as we are not going yet. Not yet, we are going now. Let's immediately go on board with Blinde Vinkje, as he is already passed right after the finish line, and that's Matt being probably bonked into the wall from the only thing I can guess. Now is Meepo also having a spin, so a lot of carnage on the restart, a lot of overtakes happening on the restart. Love also getting past the intermediate running Haas, and Smelt as well. So Smelt going up to Puri. Everyone is passing Christian. He is really, really slow on those inters. So I don't think that is the correct call. Yellow flag, sector 2, that's Christian. No, that's Fox being spun around. So a lot of carnage on the restart. I think it could also be because people are not quite yet up to temp with the tires. Now our gamer also had a spun. Very London. Also had a spin. So of course this does bring the pack a bit closer, as Ron Cruiser is trying to have a look for overtake on Basco. Now on Smelter actually, excuse me. I think Matt had another little bit of an off. Now will Ron Cruiser overtake the Ferrari this lap in sector 3, or will he just take it slow, have a bit of a wait? Alright, our gamer has his drive-through, I forgot about it. Our gamer still has a server drive-through that he got for speeding under safety car. So I think he has one more lap to serve it. And is that Yoda being spun? It is Yoda being spun. So Yoda spinning on the exit of the chicane on the straight. And Blinde Vinkje actually already building up a 3-second gap to the car behind. Christian 5-second penalty speeding in pit lane. So he decided to unfortunately retire his car. Matt also in the pits to fix his front wing damage. Anyone else close to the track? Meepo is really close to no build. He might try and get the move done into the chicane. Oh, a little bit of oversteer on the exit there. That lost him quite a bit of time in terms of exit speed. So he won't quite get the move into the chicane. Now Smelt being overtaken by Ron Cruiser, so Ron Cruiser going up to P4. Chasing Samim, who has a penalty. Wait, how did I turn on the telemetry? Must have pressed the button. Let's look at Meepo now again. Very close to no-build. Maybe try and get a cheeky move done in sector 3. He is very, very close. He just has to focus on getting good exits. slow in, fast out, especially now, in these conditions. Now, realistically, you could still say this is slow in, slow out, because you can't really go that fast when you're driving on full wets. Now, our gamer in the pits, serving his drive-through penalty. He will come out all the way at the back, unfortunately. I think still in front of Matt, but actually still in points, so he will still be in the points at least, even after the drive-through. Now, No Build still ahead of Meepo, who is behind him. Both same amount of tires. The only difference is No Build doesn't have a penalty, which Meepo unfortunately does. Meepo with the 3-second time penalty, whereas No Build has 0. I'm not sure how many warnings he has. I'm not gonna pause the game to check it because I don't want it to die on me. Let's have a look at Run Cruiser, because I don't think Meepo is getting the move done. Run Cruiser is very close to Samim though. Not quite close enough though. Once again, the only two battles we really have going is the battle for P3 at the moment, which is Samim versus Run Cruiser. And we have Meepo trying to get as high up in the points as he can. Oh, a little bit close between Run Cruiser and Samim. Samim stays ahead. Of course, in this sector they will just lose a lot of time because it's super hard driving behind each other. I'm not sure how the spray is in this game. Haven't driven in the wet myself, actually, or I should say not in full wet, only in intermediate conditions, but not in full wet, so I'm not quite sure how bad it is. Now Run Cruiser close to Samim again. It's really hard to just pick one battle and stay with it, because the gaps keep extending, keeps getting closer. So it's really hard to just pick one battle to look at. Samim goes off, so this could be a very good opportunity for Run Cruiser to get the move done. Of course, theoretically, he doesn't have to get the move even done because Samim has a penalty. But we all want to get the positions on track. I hope he will try and go for it, as he has a look down the inside. Not quite close enough, unfortunately. Will Meepo try and get the move done? No, he is too far away. My throat is really starting to go now, unfortunately. That's why I sometimes have these moments of silence, is just for my throat to regenerate a tiny bit. Alright. Still the same battles happening. Although it does look like Smelt could potentially still profit from this. Say Samim and Run Cruiser have a touch and both of them have an off. This could mean Smelt just can fly past, as Run Cruiser had a tiny bit of a moment. Exiting turn 2, bit of oversteer. Lost him a bit of time as well. Now, will Smelt try and profit of this? Will he maybe try and send one down the inside? He does have more battery than any of the cars ahead. He is using it, but he just isn't close enough. That's the biggest problem. It's just the drivers aren't close enough on the straights to quite get the move done. As Smelt actually goes deep. Decides to cut the chicane, doesn't get a penalty for it, thankfully, because he did lose a lot of time. So he basically is out of that fight. because he had to cut the corner, and in this game you just have to slow down so much for you not to get a penalty. One cruiser going a bit sideways. Really pushing the car now. Also Meepo has dropped off a little bit compared to no build. So it looks like he will be staying in P8 as of now. I don't think Run Cruiser will go for the overtake anymore, as we are going into the final lap of the race. Blinde Vinkje with a huge gap of 6.5 seconds, about to lap Yoda. I hope Yoda can stay ahead, so we don't have a lapped car this race. But as it looks, Blinde is rapidly approaching his location, so I think he will just pass him quite quickly, as it looks like Yoda isn't really trying to fight him. He has blue flag, so he is letting him go. Unfortunately, he does get lapped. Although still in P12, so close to the points, but yet so far, unfortunately. Both of McLaren's actually not scoring points this race, which is very disappointing for them in the Constructor Championship. As I think really there won't be many overtakes happening anymore. It looks like the gaps aren't close enough for moves to be happening, unless one could just sneaks one in the last sector. Going sideways, oh, a bit too much spinning the car, losing positions. What an unfortunate way to lose the position on the final lap. And will Vesco try and have a peak? But he won't be close enough to get the move done. So unfortunate to lose P3 in the last lap. He basically threw a podium in last few corners, as Blinde Vinkje is our race winner, winning by close to 8 seconds with Love being in P2, some in P3, but getting jumped by Smelt. So Smelt his first podium, and the first podium for Ferrari in a really long time. One Cruiser still getting up to P4 though. Basco P6, Noble finishing P7, Meepo in P8, Fox in P9, our gamer will be finishing in P10. He had already finished in P11, or P12, excuse me. So now we just wait for Matt to finish in 11th position. Now, this has been a interesting race, to say the least. I'm sure the stuff that has happened will get looked at. But yeah, Blinde Vinkje coming out on top, winning the race, absolutely dominating the full wet stint, and Meepo getting driver of the day. And there it is. There is all our drivers with all their penalties and the laps they have completed. Let's just go through the race director. I really want these penalties covered, just so we know what exactly happened, because this disqualification especially is yeah, it's something that just shouldn't happen in the game. But unfortunately, that is the way it is So I do want to thank everyone for watching today. I hope to see you guys next week for next week's race. That will be on Monaco. Interesting one. Hopefully not as many issues as this week. But yeah, I hope to see everyone next week. Thank everyone for watching. And see you all next time. Good night and bye-bye.